Are you ready to quit your job? I'm going to tell you the three key things you need to know before you make that move. Stay with me. So, if you're thinking about quitting your job or now is the right time for you to make a transition, I want to share three key things that you are going to need to have into place before you make that move. But before we get into that, I want to talk a little bit about if this really is a time for you to leave your job. So, most of the time that people want to leave their job is because they're feeling frustrated or something doesn't feel like it's going right. Now, some of the reasons for that could be that you are not in alignment with your organization. Maybe the way they do business and how they do business doesn't feel right for you. And so you're out of alignment and it's really just not a good fit for you to work within that organizational structure. Or maybe you're bored. Maybe there's really no growth for you because you have maximized your skill sets and maximized the things that you can do within that particular organization. And there's really no other place to go. So maybe it's time for you to think about leaving. Or maybe you have reached the pinnacle. Maybe you have engaged in working in other departments or you promoted and you've just reached a level within your career where there's really nowhere else for you to go. In that case, that may be a reason why you would want to leave your position. And I call those red flags. So if those are red flags, that's a valid enough reason for you to think about making a shift. Now, what I call yellow flags are those things that may be a little bit debatable and potentially rehabilitated. For example, maybe you are working for a boss that you don't get along with. There's some personality conflicts. You all seem to be oil and water, and it's just not working out in that kind of in that situation. Or maybe it's about your coworkers. Maybe you're not getting along with your team members, and maybe that's again personality, or maybe they just march to a beat of a different drum and it's not the musical language that you understand. And so there's just like a disconnect with the people that you're working with, right? Or maybe you're feeling undervalued or you're not feeling respected. You're being passed over for opportunities, or when you're at a meeting and you try to speak up, people talk over you or things of that nature. That again may be another yellow flag or a sign that it may be time to think about your work. But in those situations, it's not necessarily an indicator that you need to leave the organization that you're working with, particularly if the organization, you do have a fit in the organization and there are opportunities for you to advance and to grow. And generally, you like working there. In that case, you want to think about maybe making a slight pivot out of the team or the boss or the environment that you're currently in to move into another area or place within the organization that feels to be a better fit for you, but only you can tell that. So a lot of those issues can really be worked through with shifting how you show up at work, shifting your belief system and value system, and actually going after looking for other opportunities that allow you to maybe make a slight pivot within the organization. So maybe depending on how strong those issues are and how complex they are, it may be time for you to leave, but it also may be a sign that it's time for you to just rethink your current situation and maybe try to pivot around someplace else in the organization. Now, there's some other absolutes that come up that means it's time for you to leave your job. Obviously, if you're experiencing ageism, sexism, racism, or the organization or the people on your team are engaging in illegal activities, right? Those are flags that you may want to leave. If the organization on a whole doesn't feel safe, there's not psychological safety or trust within the organization, and that really bothers you or inhibits you from really performing at your highest level, then these may be really valid reasons and non negotiables for you to be able to look for another opportunity. Okay, so now that you know what are some of the reasons that you may want to leave, or some of the reasons that you may want to think about staying but making some changes, here are the three things that I want you to know before you actually make a move. So before you quit and go someplace else, the first thing you want to know is, where do you want to go next? Right? It's important that you have a very clear path of what's next. Too often, people that I work with are so obsessed with leaving that they really haven't thought about where they want to go next. In fact, a lot of people I talk to have no idea where they want to go next, but they're very clear that they want to leave this place. Well, that's a recipe for failure. You're going to end up jumping out of the frying pan into the fire if you're not clear about what you want to do next. Now, in order to do that, there's 6 W questions you need to answer. What do you want to do? How do you want to do it? Who do you want to do it for? Where do you want to do it? And why do you want to do it at the next place that you're looking at? If you can answer those questions, then you'll have greater clarity on what's next for you. And that'll get you closer to making a good move into another position than making one that you're going to potentially regret later. Now, the next thing you want to do is you want to have a plan. You want to know what's the process of going from where you are to where you want to be next. I always say that you never want to run away from something. You want to be positioned to step into what's next. And in order to step into what's next, you got to know what that bridge looks like that's going to take you from where you are to where you want to be. That means understanding your financial situation. That means having a conversation with members of your family, if you have one, about what that transition would look like and what's going to happen in between. Going from one position to the next position doesn't always happen in an overnight process. Sometimes there's gaps. Sometimes you need to wait a month or two before you actually can step into the new position. So are you in a financial comfortable position to be able to do that? Do you need to make some considerations? If there's some vacation time that you want to utilize and take advantage of while you're making that change and moving over, right? And you want to have a strategy, a proven strategy that's going to help you navigate that bridge, not only build it from where you are to where you're going, but navigate it successfully so that you land exactly where you want to land in the way that makes sense for you. And then the third thing, you want to negotiate out and in. And what I mean by that is that you want to have confidence in what you bring to the table so that as you leave your position, you have the opportunity to negotiate what you need to leave that position and feel good about the process of stepping out of that position. Again, that's why you want to walk out and not run away from something, because you may be leaving things on the table that you don't realize because you're not thinking confidently about exiting in a way that allows you to negotiate for things that'll help you and potentially set you up for what's next. And the other thing, you have to be ready to negotiate before you go into that new position. Salary negotiation is one of the things that women do not do and do not do well. And so you want to understand exactly what you're stepping into. You want to have done your market research. You want to know what you bring to the table. Again, the confidence of what you bring to the table so you can ask for something that's going to make sense. And also, you want to understand the negotiation process of when to ask for certain things, when not to, what to bring up, and knowing what they can ask you or not ask you. Or you don't have to share with them. In fact, in some states, it's illegal for them to even ask what you made at your previous position. So you want to be prepared when they ask certain questions about your previous position before you go into the next position. So those are the 3 things that you need to have in place before you leave one position and head into the new one. You want to know what you want by asking those 6 W questions. You also want to have a plan in place. You want to know how to create and build the bridge that you're going to go from where you are to where you're going next. And finally, you want to have the confidence in what it is that you bring to the table so you know how to negotiate out and negotiate in. And that's what it takes. If you would love some more information about this, just check out some of my other videos on my YouTube channel where I teach you strategies, tips, and processes to be able to get the career and life you want. I'll see you next time.